Hey, I'm Jared with ProServe Alliance. Welcome back to our video series about subcontractors. Last video we talked about how do you find subcontractors. And this week we're going to talk about once you find them, how do you onboard them? How do you set up levels of accountability and some guide rails to set them up for success as well as yourself up for success? This really is a hard place because it's hard enough right now to find subcontractors, much less somebody who can deliver, who is a quality person you can rely on, that you can trust with your clients, that you can trust with your reputation, that does what they say they're going to do. It's really difficult to find those people right now, and we've struggled with that with things like guys not showing up on time, or the guy who's constantly coming at you and asking for more money. Halfway through the job, he's already started and said, "Hey man, I don't have enough money. Can I get some more money from you? Or I need more money to finish this out." And you don't have any extra money to give, but you don't want to lose him on site, so you end up paying the guy anyways. Or we've had guys that come in and they say, I have a meeting with them and they say, "Hey, I can do this and I can do everything, and I've been doing this since I was working with my dad when I was X years old, and I can do anything." And then you get them on a job site and you find out they don't know how to do half the stuff that they said they can do. We ran into this problem over and over and over where we had a great reputation. We did really good with our clients. We got it all the way up to the work on site, and we put subcontractors in there to do work, and it just goes south because they weren't showing up and they were disappointing the client and disappointing us. So we had to come up with a way. How do we do this better? How do we find, now that we've found people, how do we set them up for success and set ourselves up for success? So the very beginning of that is, once we've found the subcontractors, is bringing them in for a meeting. We like to do it in an office setting where there's no distractions and we can be focused. And the first part of that is the vetting process. We're getting to know each other, getting to know them, letting them get to know us, understand kind of how our company works, what type of work they've done in their lifetime, and also trying to dial in and figure out, are you really good with sheetrock? Or you've just done some patchwork? Okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not going to give you a job that has a full sheetrock of a house, but you're excellent at painting. Perfect. Once the sheetrock's in, I'm going to put you in and have you do the paint. So kind of understanding who they are, what they're great at, what they're not so good at. And also another piece is trying to figure out how they think. One of the techniques that I've done with that is either before this meeting or afterwards, later on, having that sub come meet you on a job site that's a current functioning site or one that's about to start, and walk around the property with them and just listen to what they say. What are they noticing? What are they not noticing? What are they making a big deal of? And what does it not seem like they care about? It's going to give you a lot of perspective to understand who this person is, which is really important, because if I'm going to trust this person to be on the job site with my client, I got to understand some of those things. Is this guy going to think through stuff? Or is he just going to be asking me questions all day, every day? So that's the very first part of the meeting, is just kind of more cordial, just talking and chatting. And then we move into the subcontractor agreement. And this is where we set up the guidelines or the guide rails of what we expect of our subcontractors and what they can expect of us. This part is so crucial and important because these are the things that are setting up and ensuring that your job site is going to run the way that you want it to run, not the way that they're used to running jobs. And that's one of the things that happens a lot, is that we get to this urgent, desperate space and we go find somebody that can do the work, and we bring them in and put them on the job site, and they're just dirty and trashy and leave stuff everywhere, or they got a skill stall running and cutting boards on top of the kitchen granites. This is the thing that kind of helps set those guide rails. And the very first part of that is that we go through insurance expectations. I have to carry general liabilities and workers' comp, and we expect our subcontractors to do that as well. That's a very important piece of it to keep the liability lower for your company. But it also goes through things like dress code. How do we expect you to look on site? What's acceptable and what's not? Communication. Do you talk to my clients or not? Where does your communication get directed? Who is the point of contact for this job? If things go awry or if there's a problem on a job, one of the things that I say to all the subcontractors is nothing ever gets swept under the rug. If there's a problem, tell me about it. If I know about it, I can manage it. If I find out after the fact, typically it comes from my client who's now frustrated. And now I'm coming back and being frustrated with you. I would rather pay you to fix a mistake that you made than have to frustrate my client over it. It also goes through a myriad of other things of pay expectation, what to do when you're purchasing materials. How do you do that? What account numbers do you use? Is it a phone sale? Are there specific places that you want people to buy the product from? Even are you expecting them to pay for it or are you paying for it? So it's a document that really sets up those guidelines. I mentioned before a guy who's constantly asking for more money. In this document, it talks about the expectations of pay, and that when you receive a work order, you have a set amount of time that once you receive that to come back to me and say, hey, there's a problem. I think that I need a little bit more money for this job because of what you're asking me to do. Instead of $2,000, I need $3,500. So it sets up the expectation that once you've started the work and we've negotiated and we settled on a dollar amount, once you start the work, you agree to do everything on that work order for this dollar amount. So there's a bunch of stuff that our subcontractor agreement covers, but it's really important to have that as you're bringing subcontractors on to set those guidelines of expectations, so now there can be a level of accountability. And the last piece of this meeting, once I've gone through getting to know them, setting the expectations through the subcontractor agreement, is helping them understand a piece about pay. How do we pay them and what are we paying them for? And there's a part of this that is sales. It is selling them on the reason why they would want to come work for you and take on the work orders and take the work from you versus just out working for yourself. And so I'm going to go to the whiteboard and I'm going to draw out the diagram that I go over with every one of the subcontractors to help them understand that concept. So this is the diagram that I draw out for every subcontractor when I bring them in for this meeting to help them understand why it's better to work with us than on their own. And so the way that I tell them about this is this top part is the on your own. It's a typical job cycle. And the very beginning of it is clients. You got to go find clients, do some marketing, land new clients. Once you land somebody who's interested, you've got to go do a site estimate. And once you do the site estimate, back and forth communication, you got to do revisions, you pick out materials, different fits and finishes that the client would like. And then I go through and I organize the job. All of that stuff happens before I even start any work. And at this spot is when we start the work. And inside of that, I've got labor and materials. I've also got communication with the clients during the job, adjustments, change orders, any of that type of stuff that needs to happen while the actual work is being done. That's what's happening in there. And then after the job is 100% complete, you got to invoice. You got to go and collect your money. Hopefully you get it quickly. You might have to go searching for it. It might take a long time. And during this entire thing, you've also got to be trying to find new clients. And so this is the example here is this is a $5,000 job. And the job cost of this job is somewhere around $2,000, $2,500. So at the end of the day, you're going to make $2,500 to $3,000. And that is just a week's worth of time, the duration of this job, doing all of this stuff. Everything from here, outside of this bracket, is not earning any money. It is spending your time to be able to set up the place where you earn the money. Working with us, we partner together and we take a portion of the profits because we're going to cut all of this stuff out for the subcontractor. They don't have to do invoicing. They don't have to collect on their money because we've guaranteed them they're going to get a paycheck as soon as the job is done by that Friday. We do all the estimates. We do all the marketing and find the new clients. We do all the adjustments, all the communication. All the subcontractor has to do is show up and just do the labor, because we also pay for the materials too. So if you go to the next spot, this is what it looks like with us. In the same amount of time that you did this, you show up, you get a work order, you execute the work order, you don't have to communicate with the client, you don't have to do any estimates, all you do is show up, do the work order, you're going to get paid $2,000, $2,500 for this portion of the job. And immediately after that, because I'm out getting new clients while you're doing the work on site, I've got another job for you. So in the same week's amount of time, you've made $4,000 to $5,000 instead of a maximum $3,000 on this job. I do all the marketing, and our company has work back to back to back year round. We've got work during the slow season. We've got a lot of work during the busy season, and we can keep you busy all the time and cut out all the stuff that you don't like doing in the first place. So that's a way that we go through and draw out a diagram to work on some of the sales with the subcontractor to help them understand why it's beneficial for them to work with us versus on their own, and that they can make more money doing that. Now that I've showed you the diagram that I show all of the subcontractors about why they're going to make more money working for us versus working by themselves, the next place that I go is talking to them about a structured way that we pay, so that they have the ability to understand what to expect from us about when they're going to get paid. And so it doesn't really matter when. You pay them every Friday, or you pay them Wednesday, or you pay them every 2 weeks. Whatever it is, you need to have a structured system that you can tell them and relay to them of how and when they're going to get paid and what are they going to get paid for. For us, we tell them that we pay from anything that is completed from Wednesday through Monday. And our project managers go out on Monday and walk the properties, double check everything, take pictures, and ensure what has been completed. Then they come back into our software and they complete those line items out and push that payment over to them. And on Wednesdays, we cut the checks, put them in the mail, and they get the check that Friday. So they know that check is going to cover all the work that they completed from Wednesday through Monday. The great part about that is it allows them to feel secure that they know if they're out doing the work and completing line items, they know they're going to have a check coming through on Friday. So they know they're going to have money to pay their crews and support their family and do whatever they need to do to put food on the table. So that's the end of that meeting. I've set up the guidelines of accountability. I've gotten to know them and kind of understand who they are and help them to see how the pay structure works and why it's going to be beneficial for them. The next piece is setting them off on a job and giving them a try. What we recommend is that on the very first job, maybe the first couple jobs, you or the project manager shows up and just walks them through step by step as a reminder. Here's what to expect. Here's what we expect you to do on site. Here's what the work order says. Is there any confusion, any problems with that? And help guide them to operating in the way that you want them to operate. Once they're on site and operating, how do we ensure that accountability? What are some things that we do to make sure that these subcontractors are maintaining that level of customer service and training that we've been pushing to them in the subcontractor agreement and as we've been training them? One of the things that I always did is I would just have random pop-ins to the job. The random pop-ins to the job obviously do a couple things. One, it allows me to see things from a perspective that maybe they weren't expecting me to see, so I can kind of get an insight to what's happening on the job site. It also allows me to be able to talk to them if they've got questions, problems, or some misunderstandings about the work order. It helps clarify that and circumvent some delays or problems later on down the road. And one of the big things that it does is, because I popped in randomly, it causes them to think, I've got to keep this job site a certain way. I've got to be here when I say I'm going to be here. I got to be doing the things that I told them I was going to do, because he could pop in at any given moment, and I want to make sure that I'm upholding what I said I was going to do. So that's one thing that I do to make sure that, to help with, keep that accountability in place. The second thing is we have some paperwork that we provide to our alliance members that are just job site checklists. At the beginning of the job, what are just some of the expectations? Don't use my countertops as a workspace. Don't park your truck or van or whatever in the grass. You have to park in the on the street, not in the driveway, so you don't leave oil stains all over the driveway. Make sure that you check the job site before you leave, and everything is nice and clean. But we have another one that's actually an end-of-day procedure that walks them step by step through things that typically get missed or forgotten that can cause some issues. Make sure that there's no water on, the lights are off, the doors are locked, the job site is cleaned and presentable. And if that list is done, if my client or a real estate agent or whoever pops back by the house, it portrays that their property is being taken care of well. And one of the third things that we do for accountability, and this is a really big one, is that our software uses a work order system. And those work orders are for each individual subcontractor on site. So my handyman has a work order, my painter has a work order, my carpet guy's got a work order, and each one of those work orders have everything that they need to know. Every line item spelled out with detail, with color of paint, type of trim, where something's located, and every single line item that they're expected to get completed, and a dollar amount at the bottom that if you complete all these line items, this is what we're going to pay you. And at the top of that paperwork, it also tells them when we expect them to start and when we expect them to finish. So when I dispatch out all my work orders and I organize my job, I've got the painter going in, and the painter's going and he's finishing the work and seeing when he's supposed to be done, because my carpet subcontractor's work order says he's starting the day after that. Honestly, I put a buffer in between that just to make sure, because anything happens on site. But that's what that level of accountability on an individual sub is really important to train, so that the job flow goes well and I don't have overlapping of crews, I don't have delays of the job or any problems or issues. So the work order system is really, really important to ensure that everybody understands when they're supposed to start and finish, everything that needs to get done on the job site, and how much they're going to get paid. So those are three things that I do that really help maintain the level of accountability that we created in the subcontractor agreement that we went through and that the sub agreed to. So, well, that's about onboarding and how to set expectations and set your subs and yourself up for success. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be on the lookout for our next video. Next video is about, once you've got your subs, how do you maintain them long term? And if you can't, and you've got to fire them off a job, what's the best way to fire a guy off a job to limit your liability? If you want to check us out, go to ProServeAlliance.com. You can go on there and you can sign up for a demo for our software. You can sign up to be a ProServe Alliance member, or you can just go check out our blogs and our videos and our podcast. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video.